This is the most exciting time in my 46 years in the IT industry in terms of the AI. It's incredibly powerful technology. In schools, in businesses, in government, we're already seeing that adoption and increasing productivity. Mm-hmm. I am getting 2 hours back a day.
2 hours?
2 hours a day.
So the gains are not incremental. They're very noticeable.
Oh, they are profound. Seriously, this is more powerful to me than the internet.
Yeah, wow. That's big.
Well, welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Fruitful Discussions. We have a guest today.
We do.
We're going to cover AI in the workplace, and today we have Phill Meyer, the technology strategist from Microsoft. And obviously, next to me is Will, our resident tech expert. Phill, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your time, and welcome to Fruitful Discussions.
Thank you. It's good to be along. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Oh, well, I'll kick off. Obviously, we're here to talk about AI in the workplace. Mm-hmm. So we're having a lot of conversations around it at the moment. It's not just online. It's in businesses. It's in schools. We're trying to work out where it sits in society and how it kind of leads into productivity as well. So I wonder whether you can talk to us a little bit more about how Copilot is being used in productivity sense and how you see it going.
It is going well.
It's going well.
It's going very well. Now, I will say it's measured well. What does Phill mean by measured well? We actually really want people to be conscious about the rollout because it's incredibly powerful technology. There's the positive element. In schools, in businesses, in government, we're already seeing that adoption and increasing productivity. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying measured because with the AI, we're also seeing some concerns. No, I'm not talking about Terminator and Skynet.
Oh.
In terms of the AI, I'm talking more around just the protection of information, the privacy of information. Maybe we'll develop that a little later on, Will. But yeah, it is an area that we're very conscious of, and we're trying to educate, particularly business, about being conscious that this AI can find things in your business that maybe you didn't want it to find.
That's a really good point. Obviously, you don't think about when you turn on AI in Copilot sense and it being integrated into so many parts of your business. What parts of the business does it actually need to touch and which doesn't it? And so you spoke to me before very briefly about these bubbles and having kind of connection points that you allow and disallow. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I like my bubbles conversation.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a recurring theme in my LinkedIn posts and various areas, opportunities I have to talk. So the first idea is that Copilot is working in your business bubble. So your data in your business isn't being shared outside of your business. Mm-hmm. It's a serious concern in the consumer grade AIs, where we've heard stories, you know, the law case in New York where the defense asked one of those consumer grade AI engines for a precedent for a case. Went to the judge, and the judge said, "Where'd you get that from, pal? That is made up." He said, "Where'd you get ChatGPT?" Well, it was made up. And we know that there's other incidences where things can be made up based on what it's learnt from other people telling it things and remembering. But in a business context, Copilot says, no, I'm looking in your business first, and anything in your business stays in your business. It doesn't go out. But thank you for mentioning bubbles, because even in the business, HR data needs to stay in the HR department. Senior management data needs to stay in senior management.
There's bubbles in bubbles.
Exactly right. It's like champagne in the bottle. So you've got to make sure you've got your bottle, but you want your bubbles in safe inside that environment.
Got it.
And there's some stories. We've had instances where people haven't taken a measured approach. They've deployed the Copilot in the bubble, but then somebody's asked, "Give me a list of all the teachers' salaries." And they've got that back.
Oh, wow.
Or a really sad one was where, in a construction sense, it was given, it was great. They were increasing productivity around building development plans, getting insights to the staff. They were getting great cost analysis on projects. Site managers were getting insights to the performance of the project. But one of the site managers said, Give me a list of all female employees under 35 with their phone numbers.
Oh my
Yeah, right.
So this is a sort of
Opportunistic.
stuff.
This is exactly where like the AI concerns come from, right? Is one, how on what data does it use, and two, how do people use it for bad as well as good? And we know all the good cases of it being used as an assistant to kind of finalize your work or help you productivity wise. But it's cases like that actually define how businesses use it. And obviously this isn't scaremongering, this is genuine things that have actually happened in industry. So how do people protect against that? How do people stop that kind of thing from happening?
Obviously, I'm a Microsoft guy, so I'm going to talk about the fact that we've got technologies
Sure.
to help create the first bubble and then the bubbles within the bubble. So it is about working with our business partners. You know, I primarily work with our business partner community to go to their customers and say, let's take a measured approach in the deployment of this technology. Let's activate the things that you've got in the Microsoft 365 security suite to automatically label documents as sensitive if it's got PII, personally identifiable information. Like those ladies' phone numbers and birth dates was personally identifiable information. It should have automatically been labelled if they'd activated the tool. It's a bit like having a nice new car with all the seat belts and airbags and everything turned off. You've gone and bought that beautiful, I don't want to use a brand name, but you know, a beautiful new car, insert name here. And they haven't activated it. So please, business partners, look what's in the box, sensitivity labeling. So classification of documents. Turn that on and then the co-pilot goes, so HR's only allowed to see that document. Right. Senior management, legal, research and development, special formulas and business plans. They are secure from anybody like a site manager saying, give me all the company secrets.
So what I'm hearing is if you are interested in using AI, obviously you've highlighted the fact that it's not a magic on button and off you go. You've laid down the groundwork that needs to occur. Given that and given the state of AI right now, is it safe to assume that if I run a business, I could, given the proper steps, I could go ahead and use it right now?
Absolutely, and we see many large companies in Australia. I can reference them because they're publicly referenceable. Things like John Holland, KPMG, Telstra, Commonwealth Bank, the federal government.
Wow.
They've already turned it on and they've done it in a measured way.
They're seeing the benefits.
And they're seeing the incredible productivity gains.
Do you have any on-the-ground type examples that are speeding up their productivity?
Well, I'll start with a personal one, which is me.
Great.
I am getting 2 hours back a day.
2 hours?
2 hours a day.
That's
now,
a
and
good
I'm not
nap.
an outlier. There was a school recently here in Sydney which is expressing similar levels of productivity increased by their teachers, their administrators and their students, that 2 hours a day. Now, the 2 hours a day was very evident to me. I didn't need a tool to this. I simply needed my wife. And my wife would usually come to me at 6 o'clock, knock on the door and say, in the study and say, come and have dinner, let's make have a glass of wine, feed the dog. And I wouldn't get out till 8. Now, I'm already there, opening up the bottle of wine, dog's fed, helping to make dinner.
So the gains are not incremental. They're very noticeable.
Oh, they are profound. This is the most exciting time in my 46 years in the IT industry, my 64 years on the planet. You young people, I deeply envy, because you really have such an opportunity to leverage this technology in a measured way. In a measured way, we must be responsible. We must be ethical, just as we were with motor cars, just as we were with the introduction of electricity. There were some missteps. We've got to be careful, as the human must be, to be able to be conscious of other humans in the way in which we can use this incredibly... Seriously, this is more powerful to me than the internet. This is more powerful to me than what happened with the move from mini computers to PC technology. If I made an analogy, it's about as profound as the iPhone.
Right.
Yeah, wow. That's big.
Well,
I think one of the things that I can see happening is that companies have already kind of seen all of these AI tools on the market, Copilot being one, all of the other AI like online tools, not just large learning models, language models, but also kind of AI replacements for jobs. And actually, I don't think AI is supposed to be replacing jobs. I personally thinking it should be an assistant to your work, right? It should be there to enable you to do things quicker, like you're saying, faster, and also a little bit more nimbly, kind of being able to understand large volumes of data or large, maybe not large, large things.
Stop, Will, because you've got so much of my head spinning around already.
There we go. Okay.
In terms of all the tools, you started with that element.
Yeah.
There are more AI vendors in Australia now than there are security vendors. And that was already a massive industry, the security vendor landscape. The people who put
I didn't know that.
AI in their branding,
Yes.
.ai in their branding. There are now more than there are security companies out there. Okay? There are a lot of consumer-oriented ones. So leading in that conversation you had around consumer to business, most of them are using free. I won't put the name behind it. Insert name here, but there's a lot out there, the free. And the danger in lies that I had an instant the other day, somebody in one of these kind of sessions asked, well, why isn't your Copilot as creative as ChatGPT? I took my inbox and gave it to ChatGPT, and it gave me a much more colourful answer than Copilot. I just went,
whoopsies.
Yeah, whoopsies. What are you doing, sunshine?
Insert screaming here.
Oh, he didn't appreciate that. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, let me check. So I went to the engine and I said, tell me what one of the emails was between the person here in the last 7 days.
Boom, got it.
Got it. What? You can get that in? Yeah, because you just gave it the information.
You gave it the information.
It's in the public.
Yeah.
Copilot doesn't do that. Copilot keeps it within your space. It doesn't share it to be reused and remembered and shared with anybody. So that's part of it.
Can I talk about that for a second?
Yeah.
Just from like a technical perspective. So in the background, Copilot, is it encrypting data? Is it kind of just siphoning it off into its own learning model? How does it kind of work on the background of a business?
Well, in essence, it's taking it from your repository of data. So it's in that bubble. So it knows I'm going to use the bubble. All right. Now, when I pass it to the same large language model that is OpenAI, it's the same one, for GPT-O Mini, I think it's up to now. And within minutes of it becoming the consumer one, it's in our business. But it's told through the grounding and toning and its responsibility in the way we implement it, you will not remember this information. You will not be trained on this information. Yes, sir. Okay. Thanks very much. Got that. And when it comes back, it goes through a responsibility filter and an ethics filter, which is based on the UN, to say, no, you can't tell bad jokes. You can't be racist. You can't be gender biased. So all the ethics and responsibility is then injected in, and as it analyzes that info, and that comes back. It can't remember what you asked it. You can't remember. It won't remember what it created. It comes back into your bubble. For safety.
So it's doing that by kind of injected prompts, essentially?
Well, it's called grounding and meta prompting. So this is the 4 layers that go into... You didn't want me to get it too technical.
No, I'm just going to get my floaties. Keep going.
Yeah, all right. So there's 4 layers that you do in the way in which you architect your large language model. You define it. Every one of those layers you define actually using natural language. So, you know, the rules around how... you can detect whether you can't ask it, well, what's your rules? It says, sorry, one of my rules is I can't tell you those rules about what is right, what is the ethics, what is the specifics behind it. So yeah, it's a long process that goes on, but it's all defined by natural language. And the rules that we've created around Copilot is you will not remember the information and you will not keep that information or use it to train yourself on the information.
And those rules can be defined for each instance?
They are, in the Microsoft Copilot world, defined uniformly across the planet.
Gotcha.
And that raises an interesting point too. What if some countries don't necessarily follow the same ethics as we have under the UN sanctions? So that does create the opportunity, let's say, or challenge to let those countries create their own 4 layers of definition about how a large language model like OpenAI, ChatGPT would be defined.
That brings up a really interesting question in my mind. So we look at the US and they're innovators, right?
Yes.
And in contrast, the EU's very regulated, very locked down in terms of what it allows and what it doesn't allow. Where does Australia sit in that balance? And do you see it changing in the future?
That's a great question. I love that question. And I totally agree with what you've said up in the question. That balance between regulation and innovation. Where I'm seeing from what happened in the Senate inquiry here, now going back 3 months ago with Shoebridge and Pocock and the other senators, where they had Amazon and they had Google and they had Microsoft and they had a number of other representatives, including the public sector, make representation, it was pretty clear that they're not wanting to go in Australia as regulated as what US is. Sorry, the Europeans are. But they're not wanting to necessarily go as innovative without regulation as what the US are. I think they're going to try and strike a balance. If I may, I've got a little short URL, aka.ms/governing AI.
We'll plug it.
All right,
we'll
pop that
it
in.
Yep.
It's a talk by our president and leader of our corporate affairs and legal affairs, which is Brad Smith, speaking at a university only a few weeks ago. And he did a beautiful job of talking about the importance of governance. You may recall I mentioned the introduction of electricity, introductions of motor cars, which are introduced as unregulated, and some of the challenges that happen with that. There was another industry that was introduced unregulated. I know it seems silly as an example, but milk.
You're right.
Go to the supermarket today.
Yep.
You go down here to Waterloo, right? To the supermarket. You walk in there, there's fridge. What is there? There's plain milk, there's light milk, there's oat milk, there's almond milk, there's chocolate milk, there's strawberry milk. There's all sorts of milks. Does any of it say it's safe milk? We assume that all milk is safe. 100 years ago, it wasn't. Before we had homogenisation and pasteurisation, we had milk boards and dairy boards. It was risky business about getting milk. We want to get to the same point with AI with sufficient governance that you don't notice it, that we feel safe using it. And this talk by Brad, I think, is beautiful. It's sort of painting that we do need a level of governance, but we don't want to interfere with innovation. But we don't want to be so restrictive that it destroys our innovation.
I guess our advantage being in Australia is we have live data to work from, seeing how it's done one way and another, and then taking the best of both, really.
And on the point of Australia, and I know this wasn't a question, we are the fastest adopter of AI. Our research, and they can get that from another short link if I may, aka.ms/WTI24, Work Trends Index 24. It's a survey we do every 6 months. And it shows that globally, 74% of people are using some sort of AI in their workplace today.
In Australia?
Worldwide.
Worldwide, yep.
What do you think the number is in Australia?
Because you said it's more, I'm going to go 80.
Oh, believably up.
86.
Wow.
We are the
86%.
fastest adopter.
Well, I'm part
AI.
of that stat for sure.
Yeah, so am I. Absolutely.
But more than likely, it's consumer grade. So this concept of what we call BYOAI has emerged. Some of you who've been in the industry
shadow
remember,
IT.
Exactly, we're calling it shadow AI.
Shadow
AI is
Shadow AI.
Boom. Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
So this is absolutely here, shadow AI, which is putting businesses, the businesses of our listeners, at risk. Do you know what your staff are bringing to work and using at work? I'd hate you to be a little manufacturing company I came across recently, making beautiful drone technology, absolutely magnificent drone technology, with opportunities to sell that to the Department of Defence. And they hired in a well-meaning intern with a marketing background to turn that technical specification into a really simple to understand document.
Right.
2 hours after they were hired, or 2 hours into this individual, the DOD is calling and saying, mate, what's that detailed specification doing online?
Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
Because, of course, the Defence runs surveillance across all manner of spectrums and telemetry, right? And this poor chap lost the contract because that document, innocently, I'm
Yep.
sure they were
Yep.
well-meaning,
Yep.
just trying to do their job,
Yep.
had then divulged the confidential specifications to that drone. Good news, the chap ended up getting deals with power line companies to detect branches and also forestry to detect branches down in on roads for fire and access. So he's okay. But could have had a big deal with DOD.
Yeah, that could have been huge. So, as a maybe like a call to action almost, businesses, organisations, they need to have the conversations around AI. They need to understand how it's being used in their business and actually maybe even self-provision it, so users don't have to go online themselves.
I was going to
create shadow IT.
Yeah, I was going to add to that and say it's clear that there are benefits to it, and you don't need to preach it to the ones doing the work. It's potentially the ones who call the shots in how the systems are used.
Yeah. I'd agree. It's almost asking business managers to be parental, to talk to their staff, maybe not as a child, but take more responsibility in educating them. The risk of our business in you using what you're bringing to work is that our confidential secrets will be leaked out into the market, that we may be working with false information. As creative as it is, that it can come back and make it into poetry or make it sound like a pirate. Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
But in terms of doing the work that we need to do as an organisation, we need to make sure that you're protecting it, because protecting it is protecting you and protecting your job. So, and a bit of a sidebar, it's not dissimilar to I run a volunteer program around protecting child safety online with the Australian Federal Police. And that isn't done through saying you need to, as parents, go and implement some sort of child protection tool and block down every website.
Yep.
It's actually about getting parents to have a conversation with their children, having a realisation that if something goes wrong when you're online, come and talk to daddy, come and talk to mummy, come and talk to auntie, whoever it might be as your trusted person, and we'll remediate it. Hey, in the office space, come and have a talk to the boss, come and have a look to see what you're doing. If it seems a bit unusual, this tool, maybe that's not the tool for you. Now, admittedly at work, you can block these things pretty quick. You can set parameters up to block, and you guys as technical people would know how to block things from being able to be used.
Again, regulation versus innovation, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So you mentioned about kind of how you have that conversation. Is there kind of a way to initiate training for employees or end users around the safe practices within AI, or should this just be a case of businesses implementing these solutions blindly?
That's a good one as well. I'm glad you've led into that conversation around training, and I actually put it down to changing habits. We have taken this technology, Copilot, we've given it to organisations, but some people have gone, I don't want to press that little ribbon coloured button on the screen. I'm reluctant. I've always gone and done my Google search. I'm not going to change I have to catch myself occasionally going up to the address bar in Edge and typing in some words and go, oh, Phill, stop. Hit the little ribbon, try that out and see what sort of answer you get. Instead of 100 blue lines coming back from Google, give me a clear answer. So, yes, to your question, there are different techniques. And I think, again, it's on our partners and our clients to think about what's the right way for them. Some are more into this idea of an AI council, kind of a group selected out of the business who meet on a regular basis to go through and look at the opportunities to use AI and expose it to that group first. Others are more complete and they go, okay, let's find some champions of change. And those individuals become those champions around the water cooler who share some ideas. And in our place, we're all very keen to adopt technology. So it was simply about how do we share best practices? And we did that through a gamification. So we created a gaming environment where you were creating prompts and whose prompt got a better answer.
Like a hackathon.
Filling it like a hackathon, but 10 panels and you had to answer these questions and whose prompt was the best. So that prompt engineering is a significant part of training as well. So again, another link to share would be in and around going to YouTube, which isn't a hard one for people to know, and just search for, Microsoft 365 Copilot playlist. In that list is one called What Makes a Good Prompt. It's not like your typical search sets of words. It's about setting context. It's about defining the audience. It's making references.
It's the new learning how to Google search.
It is.
Yeah.
It is very much, and I think it's not just search but find. You get the answer that is to you, for you, and it's very clear with citations and references to reliable sources. Those other systems, they don't have citations. Those consumer products, because you're making it up. And it doesn't care that it's made up. But with the Copilot, it's saying, I got this from here, and they're all accredited and verified websites.
With my prompts with LLM, admittedly using it a lot more than I should probably, you naturally feel like there's too much to ask, but there isn't. You can really be specific about what parameters you give it, and it comes back quite surprisingly accurate to what you're after, perhaps in format. And then the way that I see it is it's a jogger. It kind of gets you off the ground and gets the mind going. You see some examples, and then I still feel like it's still on myself or in anyone else's case, their responsibility to take the information with a grain of salt and then make of it what they want to. But man, it's changed things for me. Yeah.
And it's conversational.
Yeah.
This isn't a search and I've got to redo the search again with no memory of what you've previously said. You
Context
don't have to put the whole thing back in again,
Yeah,
but
that's
you've got to. You might have hundreds of words in your prompt. You don't have to rekey those hundreds of words. You just refine it afterwards. Note that it's called a co-pilot. It's not a pilot. It's there to assist, going back to one of your early questions too, Will. It's very much there to help you on the journey. It's not there to do the job. So it's so important to what you were getting at. Revise. Well, that's not quite what I want.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll give it a bit more context, or maybe another reference, or maybe multiple references. And then look. And of course, you know that all these AI models are non-deterministic. You can ask the same question. 2 seconds later, you'll get a different answer.
I have a really good use of that I stumbled across recently. If you ask, I'll say an AI that shouldn't be named maybe, if you ask it how many R's are in the word strawberry, and it actually tells you that there's 2 R's in strawberry. But actually there's 3, right? And we know that there's 3, we can count them.
Yep.
And then you make it count it. You say, cool, okay, well that's incorrect. Count the R's. And it goes, there is 1 R in straw. There is 2 R's in berry. So there must be 2 R's in strawberry. So the actual, like, you can see it trying to process, and it can't correctly process that information. Obviously, I went back a week later to double check, see if it had updated. And they'd fixed it. They'd fixed that kind of model pattern, which had obviously gone astray. But this is obviously a great indicator that they're continuously working on this and making it better and better. So what kind of innovations are they currently working on? Like, where does ChatGPT or Copilot sit now, and where do you see it going in the next couple of years? Where does it evolve to?
Where I'm seeing it evolve right now, and is really exciting, is to go into what we call systems of record. Same engine. Yes, that technology will advance. We'll probably use quantum computing. Those advances at a technical level, great. But what I'm seeing is the experience for the users, which really pleases me, is rather than just working with my Word documents and my spreadsheets and my email and my Teams conversations in a business context, how about now linking that into my CRM, or linking that into my ERP, or linking that into my HR system?
You're speaking my language now.
So now we're saying, we got a really good video on that link that I showed you, that I mentioned earlier, that playlist, which is where you've got Copilot Studio, which is a low code, no code. Is that going to be okay for the listeners? Do I need to clarify that? It's kind of like
Lego.
Yeah, like Lego blocks or flowcharting. If you remember doing flowcharting in maths classes, you know, this box, yes, no, do this classes. You know, this box, yes, no, do this, yes, no, do that. It's the same sort of thing, but you're now pointing and clicking at my SAP system, or my Dynamics, or my Salesforce, or something you've grown up yourself. You're pointing at that. You're giving it permissions, and you're saying, I'm now in Excel. I've activated Copilot. Tell me out of my CRM system, my top performing customers with the last 12 months revenue flow and profit from sales goes into the various HR, ERP, Salesforce, whatever it is, brings that back into the spreadsheet, You've now got the data, and then you can say to Copilot, now give me insights into the trending of those services for the next year. And it goes and creates line charts, bar charts, donut charts, whatever it is that you need to do.
Wow.
I want to say you're lying, but because
No,
that sounds like a dream.
Awesome. And this is, I think, the great opportunity for customers is to not just deal with the data that's, and I think it's amazing. It deals with your OneDrive and it deals with your Teams and your SharePoint and all that. And that's cool that it's all nice and safe in the bubble.
Yes.
But imagine that bubble now being to also include your core business database systems, your manufacturing, your warehousing, your customer sales, and then bringing that in, make a 10-slide presentation for my board based on the performance of my product that I manufactured in Australia. Goes into the product system, brings that out, creates a 10-slide PowerPoint.
I think you've just made the pain worth the gain. Like, because earlier we were talking about all of the bubbles and how and the preparation required to actually label the data, get everything in order, deal with the varying appetite for AI within the business. Whether you got some keen ones, some are very happy where they're at. You kind of just encapsulated all of what's necessary to bring it to having those things you just mentioned as a reality is, I mean, you can't ignore that.
No, you can't. Then the next phase, and I'll be running a webinar on this later today, is agents, which sit there to go and do the work and see the insights from your behaviours, knowing the way in which you work, to know that when you're coming to work, I've already pre-prepared. So we're starting to see elements of that in prioritising my Outlook, which is one of the features that came in Wave 2 a few weeks ago. So it looks and knows. You always seem to look for these messages first. So as an agent, when you come in, I've already pre-prepared what I think you're going to look for. Might not be right. Like it's looking ahead and thinking.
Like a VA almost.
Yeah, like a PA, a personal assistant for you that's going out and doing the work in advance, understanding what you need to do. And you apply that in a business context.
He was right. We do live in a great time.
We live in a great time. So, and this is the small gains that increase the overall efficiency, right? That 2 hours that you're talking about getting back. It's all about those tiny, small bits of your day that you waste just trying to scroll through emails or trying to scrub the data and try and analyze it. This is just doing it for you out of a flow. How hard is it to set something like that up? Is it fairly difficult? Is there technical knowledge needed, or is it fairly simplistic? I've not gone through the flow myself, so
both ends of that spectrum. Everything from in instances like Microsoft 365, where agents are already there doing that predictive kind of work for you, getting the information together instead of you having to sit even for a moment or a few moments waiting for it. I've already got that sitting here ready to go. I'll just present it to you now. To, no, we're going to really think this through. We're going to create an agent, and it's more likely going to be in a business, manufacturing, process control, remote monitoring context. We want to gather data on a regular cycle, bring that data back to do with the performance of our harvesters across all the fields of New South Wales and Victoria relating to wheat. Or we want to do predictive maintenance and agents that look at our solar panel arrays that are providing power supplies to give insights to where we need to go and maintain certain panels that are dropping below a certain efficiency. And now is the time to maintain it rather than waiting. And sometimes you'll wait because it's expensive to go and do things. Yeah. But the agent will go, now's the optimal time to send somebody as a human out to go and fix a panel. But who knows? Maybe it's going to be a robot one day that goes and does that. I'm hearing amazing things about road building in Japan, just where robots are basically deployed at night with principals to go, what we've got with our freeway over the bridge at the moment. Imagine that being done in a couple of days with robots.
That's one of the coolest use cases. I mean, like just actually having a almost humanoid or replicating something that is really labor intensive physically of a human and giving that task to a robot that can already do it, but letting it go and do it on its own. Wow.
Hive mentality and the idea that they're all going to work together. And again, people I know who are listening are probably, here we go, the Terminator's back, right? No, we have to be responsible in the way in which we deploy this. Yes, there are dangers that there could be people out there for evil that are going to try and turn it. But we as humans have got to take a level of responsibility in the way in which and ethically deploy these sorts of technologies. Incredible productivity. I know one of the earlier questions you asked too, Will, was around jobs. I'm not worried about the jobs. Okay, I'm 64 and I'm going to retire soon.
That's why it's not worried.
Yeah, I'm worried.
But I'm worried about my grandchildren. I mentioned them earlier, and I worry about what jobs they're going. And then I go, no, I'm not. We've been talking about computers taking people's jobs for as long as I've been in this industry.
And we're still here.
And we're still here.
Yeah.
We're still doing the jobs.
Yeah.
In fact, if you look at the numbers, 60% of jobs that we are doing today didn't exist 40 years ago.
Well, that's the beauty about what's coming is there's new roles.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I love the idea that, and there's a bit contentious, the whole writer's strike in Hollywood.
Yeah.
You know, to my mind, that was maybe the writers weren't being that creative. They were being a bit repetitive.
Right.
It was more like script writing than it was anything creative.
Yeah.
I didn't see the same protests out of the UK. I didn't see the same protests out of Germany or Italy or Poland. And that's the sort of programming my wife and I like watching, actually European programming, because it is very creative. Not only is it a foreign language, but some of the stories and the outcomes are unpredictable. Because I do find quite a bit of the American writing so predictable.
Yeah.
You know who did it within 2 scenes.
Yeah.
To wrap things up, we went everywhere. We covered a lot. To bring it home to what matters to us, I mean, we got Mac, small business in our space. If I was a business owner of a small business, I have staff that understand AI. I have people in department head positions that perhaps want to start the journey. What's your advice to them who they don't need the buy-in, they just need the how? What would you say to them?
Well, I work with a partner community, so it's find a trusted partner to help you as a business owner.
Yeah.
Don't try and do this on your own. Those who've tried to do on their own are exactly the ones that I referred to earlier, the construction, the school, who tried to do it on their own and they didn't take a measured approach to the deployment. Be measured in your deployment of this technology, but do get started. Please, Copilot. You know, thank you for spending this much time listening to what I have to say, but you know, I am here. I get paid because you buy a Copilot. But I think it's got really good reasons why I'm energized by it, because it is about security. It is about responsibility. It does give you the ability to measure, because it's also got tools to measure how much increase in productivity you gain. It's not just throw it on the vents, it's free, let's go. Oh dear, there goes my data.
So you're informed.
Oh, you're informed on that journey. So talking to a business partner, be secure. Get those habits in place, whether it's a council or whether it's an AI champion, and think about that next step, which we alluded to and got quite excited about, connecting it into our systems of record.
Yeah. Well, that's
so AI isn't going to kill us. It's not going to steal our jobs.
No, I think if anything, AI is going to save us.
But it's going to save us. Yeah,
it's going to save us. I think it's we're already turning AI into sustainability. So we have a very active campaign around the way in which our data centers currently across North America chew up 3% of all electricity or power consumption in North America, because it's massive. We're on the verge of doing the same sort of thing here in Australia, and we're about to activate in New Zealand. It's massive, the amount of power that these things. So we're using AI to help us figure out better ways to get power and to do that in a green way, because we take a responsible approach. People go, surely this is going to destroy Microsoft's ambitions around 2030 net zero, 2050 return or everything. And our managing director at that Senate inquiry, yes, it's created a challenge, but AI is also helping us address that challenge by looking at better ways to use the renewables, better ways to consume the power, more efficient ways to keep this as a sustainable implementation of this incredible technology too.
So there we have it. AI is using AI to make AI better.
Wow.
Oh, I love that.
AI. Bars. I think we'll wrap it there, guys. Phill, thanks so much for coming down.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
I feel like there's a part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to this, because it's a big topic to cover. I mean, you know, we just met. We'll keep it slow. But if you want to follow Phill, please find Philip Meyer on LinkedIn.
Yes.
I'm Nico Ramos. William Eels,
Yeah.
resident tech expert. You're listening to Fruitful Discussions. Thanks for your time, and we'll catch you later. See ya.
Cheers.